Let's examine this problem. Given the line y equals 3x plus 5, graph the line parallel that travels through 1, 7, and state its equation. So the first thing I'm going to do is start plotting this line. I start at 5 on the y, and then a rise of up 3 over 1. And I'm starting to run out of room, so now I'm going to go down 3 and back 1. And like I was saying before, try to use the entire graph when you do this, and use a straight edge if you can. And this is my line that I want to be parallel to. So I got to go through point 1, 7. And if I want to be parallel to this, I've got to have the same slope. So it's got to be up 3 over 1 or down 3, back 1. This is going to be right next to it. So its equation, it's passing through this time the 4. So same exact slope, it's just passing through 4. So what I wanted to gather from this is how to solve this algebraically. So you want to do a line, and this is the equation of a generic line. You want it to pass through 1, 7, x1, y7, x1, y7. What do you want its slope to be? If the slope of the original is 3, then I want this slope also to be 3. I know everything except for my b once I'm looking at this. So let's try to find out what b is. Keep b in the problem. I'm going to carry down the 7. Instead of 3 times 1, I'm going to put 3 and solve to get b alone. And when I solve to get b alone, it works out to 4, just as it did on my graph. So my equation is the same slope, but it crosses at 4. So I'm trying to show you this graphically and algebraically. Let's try the same problem, except we're going to be doing perpendicular. Same line, we're going perpendicular through a different point. I wanted to make sure it worked out nicely for you. So we still have 5, where it's crossing, slope of 3, which is up 3 over 1 or down 3 and back 1. And I want it to be perpendicular through the point 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 3, negative 6. So you have to identify what the slope is of the line you have and a perpendicular slope to it. It means you have to flip 3 over 1 to be 1 over 3. And if it's a positive 3, it's got to be a negative 1/3 slope. So that means I want to rise 1 and go back 3. Rise 1 and go back 3. Rise 1 and go back 3. And what I should end up with are nice perpendicular lines. The slope was negative 1/3, and where we crossed the axis, the y-axis, was negative 5. Let's try to do it algebraically. So you have the equation of a line. You've got what your x and your y are, so 3 for x, negative 6 for y. Your slope, you don't want it to be 3 this time, you want it to be the negative reciprocal, which is negative 1/3. And we're trying to find out what b is, so we could write an equation. I want to actually do the multiplication, negative 1/3 times 3. You can do it in a calculator, any way you want to do it, but it does work out to negative 1. To get b alone, I want to add 1 to both sides. getting negative 5, which makes my equation y equals negative 1/3 x minus 5. Same thing I got on my graph. So the next one we're going to do, we're going to skip the graph. And we're going to try to do it just in algebra and see how it works. So I've given you a line, 6y minus 4x equals 6. And you got to figure out a line parallel to it. First step is finding what's the slope of what we got, the line we have. What is the slope of the line that we have? I'm doing all this work just to get what the slope is. If I want it to be parallel, I want my new equation to also have that slope. My new equation is going to be in the y equals mx plus b format. I've got my x and my y here. X is negative 1. Y is negative 4. Slope is going to be exactly the same. And I'm going to keep it plus b, because I'm trying to find out what my b is. Now this might not work nicely, and that's okay. I've got negative 4 over here. 2/3 times negative 1 is negative 2/3. Add 2/3 to both sides. And I think we're going to get negative 3 1/3 is b. Well, good thing we didn't graph it, because it wouldn't land perfectly on the graph. So our equation for this is going to be the same slope, except for b, we need negative 3 1/3. Let's try to do the same exact problem, except doing perpendicular and seeing how it works. So I already did all this work, and I know the slope of this line is 2/3. So what's the slope of a perpendicular line? The negative reciprocal. So when I go to do my work here, y equals mx plus b, I'm going to be sure to use negative 3/2 for my slope here. I've got the same x and the same y. I'm going to carry this down. This is going to be a positive 3/2. Take away 3/2 from both sides. 3/2 is the same as 1 1/2. So negative 4, take away 1 1/2 is going to give me 5 1/2 negative. Again, something I probably would not want to graph, because it wouldn't work out nicely. You've got your equation. We're going to substitute in the slope we wanted was negative 3/2, and the b was 5.5. So this is the way to do it algebraically, and you can easily compare it then to graphically.